Dare I say Neil Brown is maybe building something in West Virginia? I don't know. I'm Schuyler Callihan. This is Between the Ears. Thank you guys for tuning in. And West Virginia coming off of a 41-28 victory on the road at UCF. And look, I'm usually the guy that keeps it as real as possible, and I'm still going to do that here with this episode. But I'm not much of a big picture look at things down the road and see what this team looks like next year or what this team may look like by the end of the season. I'm more of a kind of in the moment, week to week kind of person, but I can't help myself this week, and I'm going to go there. So West Virginia's win over UCF, it wasn't sexy by any means. Probably took them a little bit too long to kind of pull away, find some separation. The defense has still got some issues that's got to work out and work through, but offensively, you're humming right now. I mean, this offense can literally go toe to toe with anybody in the Big 12 that's on their schedule. So when you got a kid like Garrett Greene, who is as tough as nails as he is, he's improving as a passer. The receivers are starting to make more plays. They're making more plays after the catch, which wasn't the case in the first month of the season. Still not where it needs to be, but it's making slow and steady progress. You're running the football with guys not named CJ Donaldson. It's a good situation that this offense is in right now. Starting with the running backs, I mean, CJ Donaldson goes over 100 yards for the first time in what feels like years. He runs his best game in what feels like forever. Had a couple of big runs in this one in the early parts of the game on that first drive on 4th and 1. He busts it for like 22 or 23 yards. And then at the end of the game, he busts that big one to essentially seal it for the Mountaineers. So huge win for West Virginia, but even a bigger win to get CJ Donaldson back on track in the run game. But on top of that, you find another guy, which we already kind of knew about in Jaheim White, but we didn't know exactly how much of a role he was going to play this season. Well, I think he just played himself into significant playing time with the performance that he put on Saturday. Coming into the game, he was already averaging like 7 or 8 yards a carry. And then yesterday he goes for 85 or 87 yards on 9 carries. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he did a terrific job just finding the open space and hitting it and using his speed to his advantage. And my goodness, this kid is just electrifying quick. So not only is he going to be a bigger part of this offense, but you add a different dynamic to your running game with him in it, because now you have to account for his speed, also CJ's power, Justin Johnson's elusiveness. You got a little bit of everything back there. It's a nice mix. And I know everyone wants to count out Jalen Anderson because he had the drop touchdown that turned an interception. He hasn't played that much. And then yesterday on that trick play, things went south. But he's going to be okay. He's still going to factor into this. It just might not be as much. He's got to earn some of that trust back. But going to the quarterback, I mean, look, Garrett Greene, and I've been trying to hold my actual judgment back on him as long as I possibly could. Look, we're well into the season now. Okay, we're 8 games into this thing. I think I can officially say this kid is a star. He is an absolute freaking star. He can run as good as any quarterback in the country. And to me, that is the one thing that is separating him from just being an average, okay quarterback to what could be. I'm not saying he's going to be a great, but a really, really good college football quarterback. You can win a lot of games with that kid under center or in the gun or whatever, pistol, whatever it is. He is super talented, super smart, tough, everything you want in a quarterback. He is that guy. So I think with him, you're in a good spot. The running game is a good spot. The offensive line, it's tough because you have so many injuries. There for a week or so, you were dealing with injuries to the left side of the line with Wyatt Milam and Tomas Rimac. Now the injury bug is flipped over to the right side. You get Milam and Remack back, and now you're dealing with injuries to Doug Nestor and Brandon Yates. But Jaquay Hubbard and Nick Malone, they stepped in and did a decent job yesterday to get through that game. Doug Nestor was in a boot on the sideline. So not really sure how or what that really means for him. Sometimes those things can mean significant injuries. It can mean they could be out for the year. It could mean they could be back after a week. It could mean they're playing next week. I've seen it just about every single way. Like I said on the post game show yesterday, I've seen guys at the Panthers that had a walking boot on after the game, and then they're back at practice full go on Wednesday. It's hard to really tell what it is. Again, that probably is a big reason as to why those guys may come back. It might be just a minor injury, and depending where the injury is in the leg or foot or ankle, whatever. But regardless, I think you've seen enough out of Nick Malone and Jaquay Hubbard to feel at least decent, right? They've played a lot of football, like Neil Brown said in his post-game presser, that you feel good about where that is if they have to go out there and play. And I know they probably don't want to put them out there, but if it really comes down to it, they probably feel good about Johnny Williams, the true freshman, to get him integrated there. Sully Weedman's maybe another guy that they could look at, so that they've got options. That's not one spot where I think they really are concerned about the depth. But again, defensively, that's a big question mark. They've got to find ways to funnel things better to their tacklers. They've got to play better up front. They've got to fit the run better. They've got to play with better pursuit, better angles, stop grabbing and reaching and just hit the guy. Tackling is was not a problem in the first 4 or 5 games of the season, but it's been a big problem here in these last couple of games or last 3 games. So, but anyways, like I said, I want to get to the bigger picture here. You've got an opportunity here, if you're Neil Brown, to say to hell with this hot seat, and I'm going to go and not only just save my job, but I'm going to stamp myself as the head coach of this team through the end of my contract. And the reason I say that is because you got a great opportunity to win at least 3 of your last 4 games. And maybe, just maybe, you could potentially beat Oklahoma on the road. Look, they're a vulnerable team. I'm not going to go deep into this, but almost lost to UCF at home. They lost to Kansas yesterday. They've had some other tight call. Like they're not this team that you just are 100% scared of when you go and face them, even in Norman. I think they are a team that can lose to West Virginia, and they may lose next week to Oklahoma State in Bedlam. It's the last time those 2 teams are playing for God knows how long. So that one's going to mean something to those guys. And it's in Stillwater. So this is a tough little stretch that Oklahoma's in. But back to West Virginia, you go home this week, you're 5-3, 3-2 in the conference. Boy, if you can beat BYU, I mean, things are really starting to set up nicely for you. You're bowl eligible if you can beat them. You're 4-2 in the conference. You're feeling good about yourself, feeling good about your chances going to Norman. And then it sets up beautifully to end the year with a home game, your final one against Cincinnati, who just cannot for the life of them find a way to win a Big 12 game, just like Central Florida. And you got that one at home. They're dealing with some depth issues as well. And then you end the year in Waco against Baylor, who, oh yeah, is 1-5 at home. 1-5. So again, you get past BYU, you're looking pretty good. And the reason why I'm so focused on the BYU game is because, look, if you lose to Oklahoma, no one's going to fault you for that. Now, you have to play competitive if you lose. You can't get your butt kicked by 20 or 30. But if you lose to Oklahoma, I think fans can accept that. I don't know that they're going to accept losing to BYU or Cincinnati or Baylor as much as they would Oklahoma. Again, a loss is a loss, but some of these are weighted a little bit differently. So I think if you can go and beat BYU, you're setting yourself up for an at worst 8-4 season. 8-4 season. at worst. You go to a bowl game with a chance to get win number 9. But if you somehow run the table from here on out, you're 9-3, and you got to crack it, win number 10 in a bowl game. Jeez, that would be coach of the year type of talk. And look, we talked about it a few weeks ago when they were 4-1 going to Houston. And again, it felt like this same thing was kind of setting up. You had Houston. If you won that game, you're 5-1. You come back home against Oklahoma State. Probably have a big crowd for that one, which, I mean, they did, but it wasn't the same fierce crowd that you're used to having. And I mean, that thing could have very easily been 6-1 rolling into this week, and you're 7-1 all of a sudden. And now we're talking really different pictures. But I'm getting off track here. What I'm trying to get to is this can still be a very successful season for West Virginia. To me, even if you get to 7 wins, it's a successful year. But I think 8+, it's boom, cherry on top. You're really feeling good about where this team is, where this program is heading. And when you start looking ahead at next year, you've got Garrett Greene coming back. That kid's not going anywhere. I know people say, oh, you got to worry about the transfer. That kid is not going anywhere. He loves this program. He's not going anywhere. He understands by going to another program, it's not going to do him anything, and he's not even probably guaranteed a job. Here, this is his football team. Garrett Greene coming back. Now, there's some other guys here that could be flirting with the portal, or that could draw interest from other schools that say, hey, hop in the portal. You might have a little bit of that poaching going around, but let's just say they all come back, and we'll deal with the news if they leave when it happens. That's a loaded running back room. It's a crowded room. Likely one of them is going to leave, but I mean, regardless, you feel really good about the overall health of that room. Wide receiver, you're going to have to find somebody in replace of Devin Carter, but you like some of the young guys in that room with Gallagher and Ray and Hudson Clement. You got Cole Taylor coming back at tight end. You'll lose Zach Frazier up front, and Doug Nestor, but you still have Tomas Remack. You have Wyatt Milam. It's a very good group you got coming back up front. Very good nucleus. Defensively, you've got literally everybody but Lee Kova coming back, and Beanie Bishop. Like literally everybody. And that's an 8 or 9 defensive man rotation that you have up front. Every single one of those guys is coming back. So you've got a chance here to not only finish this season strong, but carry that over to next year. And I know some coaches will say that doesn't necessarily happen. And typically, in theory, it really doesn't. But if you're looking at it from a 50,000-foot view, you finish this year 8 wins or more, that's going to have some sort of impact on the kids that you can get in the portal. It just will. Not so much the high school ranks, because that's pretty much taken care of at this point. But the transfer portal, the guys that you get and the guys that you keep, it's going to play a factor. It's hard to attract a guy to a 6-6 program versus that's being also recruited by, Penn State and Michigan and Florida and Miami and whatever, or Florida State, versus finishing year 8-4 and say, hey, look, we got a star quarterback coming back. We've got 3 guys that are workhorses at running back that are returning. We got almost everybody coming back on defense. We just need this piece. We need that piece. And you can help us get there to get to that 9-10+ win mark. Now, does it actually happen? That's a different story, but you can at least pitch that. So, anyways, I think that's a good place to stop it. We'll pick back up here later in the week. We're going to do how West Virginia beats BYU. The Walkthrough Game Day show presented by Country Roads Air Duct Cleaning. We're going to break down the game between the Mountaineers and the Cougars, and maybe somewhere along the line we'll squeeze another episode in. We'll see. It's a busy time here with basketball going on as well. So thank you guys for watching. As always, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. Follow us on X at Mountaineers Now. You can follow myself at Callihan_. Thank you guys for tuning in today and yesterday for the post-game show and throughout the week for all of our coverage. We'll see you back here in a couple of days. Take care.